Remember that iconic scene from the Raiders of the Lost Ark? Nazi faces melting like wax as the Ark of the Covenant unleashes divine fury? Hollywood magic, right? Just Steven Spielberg's imagination running wild with ancient mythology and special effects. Except here's the part no one told you. The Nazis weren't just villains in a movie. They were actually hunting for the Ark. And when the Third Reich fell, the CIA quietly picked up right where they left off. This isn't movie trivia. This is documented history, black projects, psychic spies, mysterious deaths, and angelic guardians. The only difference between Hollywood's version and reality is that the real story is far more terrifying, because it's still happening. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about faith, power, and the invisible war raging over biblical artifacts. Long before Spielberg's melting faces hit the big screen, Heinrich Himmler was pouring the Reich's resources into something called the Abendmahl, an official Nazi organization dedicated to hunting supernatural artifacts. While most people assume the Nazis were strictly materialistic, the truth is far stranger. They were obsessed with the occult. Himmler genuinely believed that ancient relics carried real power that could tilt a global war. His team scoured the earth for the Holy Grail, Thor's hammer, and yes, the Ark of the Covenant. And this wasn't a fringe hobby for eccentric officers. It was official Reich policy, backed with enormous funding and Hitler's personal approval. But why would hardened generals and scientists waste wartime resources chasing what most people consider religious fairy tales? What did they know that the rest of the world didn't? The answer becomes clearer when you understand that the Nazis' leadership wasn't just politically evil. It's the hidden engine driving visible history. And they wanted to steal God's weapons for themselves. Their expeditions to Tibet, Antarctica, and the Middle East weren't random. They were systematic attempts to locate and weaponize divine artifacts. In Antarctica, they built secret bases where rumors still persist of bizarre rituals and buried technology. In Tibet, they chased forbidden knowledge. Across Palestine and Ethiopia, they followed the same trails that, years later, would attract CIA attention. When the Third Reich collapsed, these occultists didn't vanish. Many were quietly recruited by Allied intelligence through programs like Operation Paperclip. The Nazi hunt for supernatural power didn't end with Hitler's death. It just changed management. Fast forward to the Cold War. America and the Soviet Union were locked in an existential struggle. Each side was desperate for any edge that might tip the balance of power. And that's when someone inside the CIA had an idea that sounded insane to traditional intelligence officers. What if human beings could be trained to see distant locations with their minds? What if psychic abilities weren't parlor tricks, but usable intelligence tools? From that seed of desperation was born Project Stargate, one of the most controversial programs in CIA history. For over 2 decades, the agency poured millions of taxpayer dollars into training so-called remote viewers. These psychic spies claimed they could see targets from thousands of miles away, and the results were startling enough that multiple presidential administrations quietly kept their project alive. But here's where the story takes a turn from strange to biblical. Because these government psychics weren't just tasked with spying on enemy missile silos. They were assigned to hunt for sacred relics. The same targets the Nazis had obsessed over were now being pursued by American operatives using occult methods. A supposedly secular government was using psychic techniques to locate holy artifacts. The irony is staggering. Picture the scene. Summer in Virginia, inside a sterile government facility. A trained remote viewer sits in a soundproof room. She hasn't been told what she's looking for, only given a set of random coordinates on a map. Her eyes close. Her mind stretches thousands of miles. At first, she describes what seems like routine intelligence. A Middle Eastern landscape, domed buildings, Arabic voices, white-robed figures moving through sacred spaces. But then, the description takes a turn that no amount of government training could have prepared her for. She sees a golden box, ornate, ancient, radiating such overwhelming power that even in her psychic state, she recoils in fear. But the box isn't alone. It's guarded, not by soldiers, but by men, by entities. Beings that don't appear human, creatures existing solely to protect the artifact from intruders. And according to the declassified report, these guardians don't just scare people away. They them instantly, without hesitation, without mercy. Sound familiar? It should, because this is exactly what the Bible describes happening whenever someone tried treating God's presence casually. The psychic's vision pointed towards a location scholars have debated for centuries: Ethiopia. For over 1,000 years, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has claimed to guard the true Ark of the Covenant in the ancient city of Axum. Inside a modest stone chapel, a single monk is chosen to guard what may be the most dangerous object on earth. But here's the chilling part. The guardians rarely live long. They age rapidly, develop strange illnesses, and die far younger than expected. The official explanation: the heavy burden of spiritual responsibility. The whispered truth: they're being consumed by exposure to divine power. Think back to Scripture. Moses veiled his glowing face after meeting God. Priests in Solomon's temple tied ropes to their ankles in case they collapsed in his presence. And Uzzah dropped dead instantly when he touched the ark without authorization. So ask yourself, are these Ethiopian monks experiencing the same thing? Is the glory of God still burning so intensely from that ancient relic that it literally burns out human flesh, like an overloaded circuit? The CIA's remote viewers may have rediscovered something Western Christianity has forgotten. God is not a harmless symbol. He is consuming fire. Step back and look at the bigger picture. For 80 years, from Nazi occultists to CIA psychics, the most powerful organizations on Earth have been hunting biblical relics. Not as museum trophies, not as legends, but as functional sources of supernatural power. And these aren't religious fanatics chasing myths. These are hardened pragmatists who don't waste resources on fairy tales. If they're spending millions chasing artifacts like the Ark, it's because they know something most churches have forgotten. The supernatural claims of Scripture aren't ancient metaphors. They're operational intelligence about how reality really works. And the Ark still works. Think about it. If the Ark of the Covenant were just a gold box with some old stones inside, why would Nazi officers risk their lives to find it? Why would the CIA fund psychic experiments to track it? Why would Ethiopian monks keep dying young, guarding it? The answer is simple. Because the Ark is not mythology, it's still pulsing with the same divine energy that parted the Red Sea, toppled Jericho's walls, and struck dead anyone who approached it unprepared. And here's the detail that makes it all the more terrifying. The guardians aren't demons, they're angels. The same beings that have stood watch over the holy places since God placed flaming cherubim at the gates of Eden. These aren't Renaissance cherubs with baby wings. They're the fiery Sephirim that made Isaiah cry, "Woe is me, for I am undone." They're the beings whose appearance made Roman soldiers collapse at Christ's tomb. Entities of such holiness and power that their very presence can kill mortals who aren't ready to encounter them. And according to CIA remote viewers, they are still on duty. Here's the question that should keep you up tonight. If secular governments take the supernatural seriously enough to pour millions into locating biblical artifacts, what does that say about modern Christianity? We've spent generations trying to make our faith respectable to a materialistic world. We've explained away miracles as metaphors, reduced angels to feelings, dismissed divine power as psychological comfort. Meanwhile, the CIA is funding occult programs to hunt the Ark of the Covenant. The irony is devastating. Unbelievers show more respect for supernatural power than any believers. Occultists take scripture claims more seriously than the church that preaches it. And the guardians of the Ark, those lethal angelic beings, don't care whether you believe in them or not. They have been perfecting their techniques for 3,000 years. The Nazis knew the Ark contained real power. The CIA discovered it's still guarded by angelic forces. And intelligence agencies around the world continue searching because they understand what we've forgotten. That the God who created those artifacts is still here, still holy, still dangerous to approach casually, and still eager to demonstrate his power through anyone bold enough to believe his means what he says. So if you found this eye-opening, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more truths they don't want you revealed. Remember, you're either the lion or the sheep.